Hello everyone, welcome to StudyIQ IAS English channel. My name is Shubham Sagar and today we'll talk about this particular issue. Will US-China bonhomie impact India? Why are we talking about this particular issue? Because again, it has been published in The Hindu and there are so many things which are going on in the background. Jokes aside, that was a stupid joke. So, Trump, the so-called tariff man, what is he doing now? How this whole thing, this whole big deal will impact India? Then there are certain terms. China plus one model. What is the basic meaning of China plus one model? Then ASEAN comes into picture some way or the other. So there are so many things. ASEAN, how many countries are there in ASEAN? Association of Southeast Asian Nations. So what is a mnemonic for remembering ASEAN countries? BPL TV mimics. What is that? We'll talk about it. First of all, let's talk about this particular issue. Let's talk about this guy who is playing with taxes. Tax on, tax off. US-China trade agreement highlights. What are the means highlights? So if you read science and tech, you may have read about waves, crest, trough, and all those stuff. So right now, so-called good times are coming, and there is a quote also, "Achhe din aayenge," that means good days will come. So for world trade, good days are coming. But how will that impact India? BOP, balance of payment, we talk about so many things, world trade, zero-sum game, whether China's gain is India's loss or not. So there are so many things to again talk about. We'll go there one by one. So US, what they have done, they have reduced tariffs. See the tariff amount, bro. This is actually funny. 145%. Who raises tariff to such a level? 230% for 90 days. So again, reciprocity. There is also one term which you will use a lot in economy, that is quid pro quo. That if I'm doing something for you, you have to do something in return. So China in return, they have reduced tariff on American goods from 125% to 10%. Cool. So again, this is a good thing. Global market, they are reacting positively to it. But please understand, when you will read economy, you will realize that it's like there's no such thing as good or bad. When you talk about inflation, we say that inflation is bad, this and that. No, there is a curve which is known as Phillips curve. They say that inflation and unemployment, they have an inverse relationship. If inflation increases, unemployment decreases. Why? Because if the prices of goods and services increases, company will have more incentive to produce those goods, and that's why they will employ more people, thereby leading to decrease in unemployment. Inflation increases, unemployment decreases. So in general terms, what we are trying to say here is there is no good or bad thing in economy. If world is reacting positively to it, it's not like all countries will be reacting positively to it. And what do I mean by that? We'll see. And how India should react to it, that is also a question. So coming back to tariff men, background tensions escalated. Trump, February 1, and that's why he got this particular quote, tariff man. He announced tariffs on China, Mexico, and Canada. So in return, again, quid pro quo, China announced tariffs and counter tariffs, so to say. Different interpretation. Now, the thing which has happened, Trump has reduced the tariff. China has reduced the tariff. What are the different interpretations? How are economists looking at this whole development? So there are different talks. One view is Trump is understanding that we cannot live without China. There's also a very interesting term here, China plus one economic model, which we have to understand. And so, yes, so this is one view. Do you believe in this particular view that Trump is recognizing China's economic importance? If you want to make Apple goods and all those stuff, mobile, everything, you have to do it in China. So it's the manufacturing capital of the world in some way or the other. Second view is no. China has done some background negotiation with US and that's why this thing has happened. And third thing is like, dude, it's unresolved. It's just a game. Tariff man is playing a game. Tariff up, tariff down, and this is just a game. The issues, the core issues which US and China had, it's still unresolved. Do you have any views on these three issues which we have just discussed? The first issue is that Trump is recognizing China's importance. We'll talk about India also. This is one part where we'll talk about what has happened and then we'll try to understand how India will be impacted by it. Second point, do you think China has done background negotiation on this whole thing and that's why this decrease in tariff has happened? Or do you think, no, it's like still the same thing and tariff man is playing his own games? Okay. Now, future outlook. All these talks are going on. It still doesn't mean that these are the hunky-dory days of US-China relationship and the relationship will only go up and up and up in the upward trajectory. No, we have to wait and see, and we will wait and see what tariff man does further. The second part of this particular article, this particular topic is what will be the implications on India? Like all these things which are happening between US and China, how it will impact us. China's gain is India's loss? Or do you think this is not a zero-sum game, sir? And it's fine. So, implications for India. Uncertainty if US-China talks succeed. See, there is one very interesting thing. China plus one model. If you know it, you can post it in the comment section. I have told you again and again, the good way of watching these videos are like is rather that you pause it. Let's say I asked you China plus one model. You write the answer in the comment section and then you unpause and you see if whatever you thought was correct or not. So China plus one model is, there was a time 20-30 years back when most of the companies, like most of the countries rather, US, etc., they have made China as the manufacturing capital. Like Apple phone is a very common example. Apple phone. Apple is a US company, US giant, but their phones are manufactured in China. So more and more, like because of the cheap labor and all those stuff. So China was the fulcrum. Now countries have started realizing, European countries, US, etc., that no, we shouldn't be depending too much on China. We have to go beyond China because we are becoming too much dependent on China. So they have started looking for option. India is one option, Bangladesh, then ASEAN countries, 10 countries, they are options. So this is China plus one model, that instead of China, like China is fine, but apart from that, we can make another country, 1+1 country, the manufacturing hub. We should not be depending too much on China for manufacturing and other perspectives. So this is China plus one model. Hope I made some sense here. India-US trade tension. So China plus one model. So if we talk about the plus one thing, that US does not want to become too much dependent on China for manufacturing, that plus one could be India. But the author of this particular article is saying that India did not leverage this whole thing. We're not able to become plus one in so many different matters. And US and other countries, they rather went to countries like Vietnam, Bangladesh, ASEAN countries. We'll talk about ASEAN countries and the mnemonic for that. India-US trade tension is still continuing. We are talking about reciprocal tariffs and tension is persisting. So whatever is happening between US and China, that has not resolved our issues. It's not like US has reduce the tariff for China. They have done the same thing for India. They will have it on a case-by-case basis, or we can call it country-by-country basis. So China plus one model, hope you understood it, that instead of US and Western or European nations relying on China as the manufacturing hub, they're trying to think about other countries as the plus one. It can be India, it can be Vietnam, it can be other ASEAN countries. So now, there's one term which comes into picture here, ASEAN. How many total countries are there? Very important. UPSC has already asked questions on it. And if UPSC asks questions, other exam will ask you questions on that. So ASEAN 10 countries, what is the mnemonic? The mnemonic is BPL TV mimics. Brunei, Philippines, Laos, Thailand, Vietnam, Myanmar, Malaysia, Indonesia, Cambodia, and Singapore. So BPL TV mimics. In our time, there used to be a TV which was known as BPL TV. Then there was Oneida, or I don't know. If you have heard about it, you can post it in the comment section that you have heard about these TV. Now it's all like Samsung, this and that. In our time, it was BPL TV, Samsung TV, and Samsung not, BPL, Oneida, and all those stuff. So yes, ASEAN. Now this is one question in front of you. Do you think China will gain? Obviously, they will gain if the tariff is reduced. So this will lead to India's loss. So do you think, sir, this whole time when the tariff was high, we could have leveraged this thing in a better manner, as the author of this article is saying? So what is your view on this particular topic? Let's talk about certainties for India. What things are certain? Again, these are uncertain times. We don't know next day Trump will wake up and what he will do next, but still there are certain certainties for India. Trade deficit with China. There is, whatever they are doing, US and China, our trade deficit with China will continue. And this is actually a very interesting statement made by the author. Very interesting. This author is saying that Make in India of ours will depend upon Chinese import. And you have to understand this. What is the basic meaning here? Let me give you an example. So I was in Hyderabad. There's a company called Novartis, very famous pharmaceutical company. So generally the pharmaceutical company, or the medicine company in simple terms, they make medicines, they make drugs. Drugs means here medicines. So for medicines, their raw material is known as API, active pharmaceutical ingredients. Raw materials. So in simple terms, raw materials for medicines. Most of the medicines which we are making in India, their API, their active pharmaceutical ingredients, we are importing it from China. So we can understand. So again, we are making our own medicine, but the raw material is coming from China. The API for medicine is coming from China. Active pharmaceutical ingredients. So this is one example. Now, hope you are understanding what is, like how Make in India is dependent upon Chinese import. Need for domestic reforms. All these things which is happening between US and China, that is at one place, but we need to look within. We need to focus on our labor and land reforms, and then only we can think about, developing our manufacturing sector at a greater level. Because you must have heard this particular thing. There is primary sector, secondary sector, and then tertiary sector. Primary agriculture, and then your secondary manufacturing, and the tertiary is transportation communication. So most of the countries, they develop from primary to secondary to tertiary. But in India, what has happened? We have jumped from primary to tertiary, undermining secondary. So for developing our secondary manufacturing sector, these are the things which we need to do. Cool, sir. So hope you understood the gist of this article. Whatever is happening with respect to China, that's fine. There are certain terms which we have to understand. And again, this is a game, this is a geopolitical game which is going on between US and China that will have its own twists and turns, but we have to focus on the keywords here. China plus one model. We have talked about it. Can you solve this particular question? What according to you is the answer here? Post it in the comment section. This is a PYQ, UPSC PYQ asked on ASEAN. We have also seen the mnemonic related to ASEAN. I have told you. So again, can you tell which is the member country of ASEAN here? UPSC PYQ. And then coming back to the questions which we have discussed in this article. This whole thing where Trump has reduced tariff, is he recognizing China's importance, or some backdoor negotiation has been done by China? This is just a revision of everything which we have discussed, or do you think this is just a day-to-day game in Trump's life? He's a tariff man, so he will keep on doing these kind of stuff. And again, do you think, just give me a second. So do you think China's gain is India's loss? What is your view on that? So whatever is your view, you can post it in the comment section. China's gains, India, or China's gain, India's loss. Okay, at the end, 2 questions I have asked you. If you know the answer of one MCQ and one PYQ, UPSC PYQ, you can share the answer in the comment section. I will share this particular PDF along with the answer of those 2 questions in my Telegram channel. Fun Study with Shubh, because study should be fun. So that's it from me, sir and ma'am. Our May evening batch admissions are closing on 15th May 2025. If you are a serious UPSC 2026 aspirant, join this batch at the earliest. Use my code SHS Live to get maximum discount. And yes, do join if you are a serious aspirant. Because if you clear UPSC Pre 2026, we will initiate full refund for you, because you will be making us as well as yourself proud. So that's it from me. Whatever, you want to talk about this particular topic, I have asked a lot of questions to you on this particular topic. If you have answers to any of that, you can post it in the comment section. And yeah,